The stars looked different today. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship UES Discovery, watching the scanner readings with growing concern. Something was out there in the darkness between stars, something big. "Captain, we're getting strange energy readings from the Kepler 442 system," reported Dr. Lisa Park from her science station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she tried to make sense of the data. "These patterns don't match anything in our database." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed massive energy sources moving in formation. Too organized to be natural, too large to be anything Earth had ever built. "How many contacts?" Jake asked. "At least 50 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're huge. Some of them are bigger than our largest space stations." Communications Officer Amy Clark turned from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions. They're not using any language or communication method we know." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had been exploring space for decades, always hoping and fearing this moment. First contact with alien life. He had imagined it would be peaceful, maybe even friendly. The massive fleet ahead suggested otherwise. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations," Jake ordered. The alarm bells rang throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their positions. The Discovery was an exploration vessel, built for science and discovery, not war. They had defensive shields and a few small weapons, but nothing that could stand against a fleet of unknown alien warships. "Sir, they're changing course. They're heading straight for us," reported Navigation Officer Pete Brown. "Distance? 2 million kilometers and closing fast." Jake made a quick decision. "Open a channel on all frequencies. Let's try to talk to them." Amy worked at her controls. "Channel open, sir." "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Ship Discovery. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." For long seconds, there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life with a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "Primitive beings of the third planet, you will surrender your vessel immediately and prepare for interrogation." The words were in perfect English, which somehow made them more frightening. These aliens had been watching humanity long enough to learn their language. "We are peaceful explorers," Jake replied. "We mean no harm. Perhaps we can discuss—" "Silence!" The alien voice cut him off. "You will comply or be destroyed. Your species has violated the territorial claims of the Zephyrian Empire. This sector belongs to us." Dr. Lisa Park grabbed Jake's arm. "Captain, their largest ship is powering up weapons. Energy readings are off the charts." On the main screen, the alien fleet came into view. The ships were massive, dark things that looked more grown than built. Strange curves and spikes covered their hulls, and they glowed with an eerie blue light. "This is High Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire," the voice continued. "Your pathetic species has dared to send ships into our domain without permission. This insult will not go unpunished." Jake tried to stay calm. "Commander Vextar, we didn't know this area was claimed by anyone. We're explorers seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." A sound like laughter came through the speakers, but it was cold and cruel. "Friendship? You barely crawled out of your gravity well. What could primitives like you offer the mighty Zephyrian Empire?" The largest alien ship moved closer. It was easily 10 times the size of the Discovery, covered in weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. "Your little ship is amusing," Vextar continued. "So small, so weak. Watch as we demonstrate the power of true civilization." A beam of blue energy shot from the alien vessel and struck the Discovery's shields. The ship shook violently and sparks flew from several control panels. "Shields down to 30%, shouted Engineer Carl Brooks from the engine room over the communication system. "That was just a warning shot," Vextar said. "The next one will turn your ship into space dust." Jake felt sweat running down his back. They were completely outmatched. "What do you want from us?" "Your species will surrender unconditionally to the Zephyrian Empire. Your world will become a colony. Your people will serve us as we see fit. You have 30 of your days to broadcast this surrender to your entire species. And if we refuse, then every human in existence will die. We will turn your planet into molten rock and scatter the pieces across space. Your species will be forgotten. Just another failed experiment in evolution." Dr. Lisa Park was recording everything, making sure they had proof of this encounter. Amy Clark worked frantically to boost their communications array so they could send a message back to Earth. "Your 30 days begin now," Vextar announced. "Return to your little world and deliver our terms. Do not attempt to send any more ships to our territory, or we will destroy them on sight." The alien fleet began to move away. but not before sending another energy blast that knocked out half of the Discovery systems. The ship went dark except for emergency lighting. Damage report, Jake called out. Main engines offline, weapon systems destroyed, life support running on backup power. Carl reported. We can make it back to Earth, but just barely. Jake looked around at his crew. They all understood what had just happened. Humanity had just been given an ultimatum by a superior alien force. Surrender or die. Set course for Earth, best possible speed, Jake ordered, and prepare a full report of everything that happened here. As the Discovery limped away from the alien fleet, Jake thought about the impossible choice facing humanity. They were farmers and shopkeepers and scientists, not warriors. How could they possibly fight against beings who could cross the galaxy and destroy planets? But somewhere deep in his mind, a small voice reminded him of human history. Humans had always been underdogs. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had turned deserts into gardens and climbed from caves to the stars. Maybe, just maybe, the Zephyrian Empire had made a mistake. Maybe they didn't know humans as well as they thought they did. The long journey back to Earth began, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the alien fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, confident that they had crushed another primitive species before it could become a threat. They had no idea how wrong they were. The emergency meeting room in Earth's Defense Command buzzed with tension. Admiral Frank Davis sat at the head of the long table, surrounded by the planet's top military and scientific minds. Captain Jake Morrison had just finished his report about the encounter with the Zephyrian Empire. 30 days, Admiral Davis said quietly. They gave us 30 days to surrender our entire species. Colonel Rita Stone studied the data on her tablet. She was Earth's best military strategist, a woman who had spent her career planning for conflicts that everyone hoped would never come. Their technology is clearly superior to ours. Those energy weapons tore through the Discovery's shields like they were made of paper. What about our fleet? Asked General Tom Price. We have over 200 warships. Against 50 alien vessels that each outgun our entire space navy? Rita shook her head. It would be a massacre. Dr. Kevin Wright, Earth's leading expert on alien biology, had been quiet during most of the meeting. Now he leaned forward with excitement in his eyes. I've been analyzing the communication records from the encounter. There's something interesting about these Zephyrians. What do you mean? Admiral Davis asked. Their language patterns, their voice modulation, even the way they move their ships. Everything suggests they evolved on high-gravity worlds, probably 2 or 3 times Earth's gravity. So, General Price didn't see the point. So they're used to environments where everything is heavier, denser, slower. Look at their ship designs. Those thick, heavy hulls aren't just for protection. They're built for beings who evolved in crushing gravity. Colonel Stone began to understand. You're saying they might not be as adaptable as they think? Exactly. And there's more. I've been studying their fleet movements. They're precise, organized, but they're also predictable. Every maneuver follows standard patterns. There's no creativity, no improvisation. Sergeant Alex Turner, a decorated Marine who specialized in unconventional warfare, spoke up. Sounds like they've never had to adapt. When you're the biggest, strongest species in the galaxy, you don't need to be clever. But humans are clever, added Dr. Nina Foster, a combat psychologist. We're problem solvers. We adapt. We survive. Admiral Davis looked around the room. You're talking about fighting a war we can't win with conventional tactics. Not conventional tactics, Alex said. Guerrilla warfare. Hit and run. Use our advantages instead of trying to match their strengths. What advantages? General Price asked. They have better weapons, better shields, bigger ships. Dr. Wright pulled up a holographic display showing human physiology compared to estimated Zephyrian biology. We're faster. We can survive in a wider range of environments. We can go longer without food and water. We can function in low oxygen, extreme temperatures, and variable gravity. Most importantly, Dr. Foster added, we're unpredictable. Humans do things that don't make logical sense. We take risks that no rational species would take. We sacrifice ourselves for others, even strangers. Colonel Stone was already working on tactical scenarios. If we evacuate the cities, move the population to underground shelters and orbital stations, we could turn Earth into a nightmare for occupation forces. They'll bombard the planet from orbit, General Price pointed out. Will they? Alex asked. If they want to colonize Earth, they need it intact. They want our resources, our technology, our people as slaves. A dead planet doesn't serve their purposes. Admiral Davis stood up and walked to the window overlooking Earth's largest spaceport. Ships were already being prepared for evacuation missions. You're asking me to bet the survival of our species on guerrilla tactics against aliens who can destroy planets? No, sir, Rita Stone said. We're asking you to bet on human nature. We've been the underdogs before. We survived ice ages with stone tools. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We went to the moon with computers less powerful than a modern calculator. Dr. Wright nodded. The Zephyrians think they know us because they've been watching our broadcasts. But they've only seen our peaceful side. They don't understand what humans are like when we're fighting for survival. What about our space fleet? Admiral Davis asked. We modify the ships, Alex suggested. Smaller crews, faster engines, hit-and-run tactics. We can't win a direct battle, but we can make them pay for every inch of space. Captain Steve Miller, one of Earth's best pilots, had been listening quietly. My squadron is ready to try new tactics. We've been training for space combat, but we can adapt to guerrilla warfare. The key is to make them think we're more dangerous than we really are, Dr. Foster explained. Create uncertainty. Make them afraid to send small forces. Force them to waste resources on overwhelming responses to minor threats. Admiral Davis turned back to the group. How long do we have to prepare? 26 days now, Jake Morrison said. But they'll be monitoring our communications, watching for signs of military buildup. Then we use that against them, Rita Stone said with a cold smile. We let them see what they expect to see. Panic, confusion, maybe some token resistance. Meanwhile, we prepare for a very different kind of war. Over the next few hours, they developed a plan that seemed impossible. Evacuate major population centers while making it look like normal space traffic. Convert civilian ships into guerrilla fighters. Train ordinary people in resistance tactics. Most importantly, prepare Earth itself as a trap. The Zephyrians conquered the galaxy through overwhelming force, Dr. Wright said as the meeting wound down. Every species they've faced either surrendered immediately or was destroyed quickly. They've never fought a long, bloody war of attrition. But humans have, Sergeant Turner added. It's what we do best. Admiral Davis looked around the room one more time. These people were asking him to gamble everything on human stubbornness and creativity. It was insane. It was also their only chance. Do it, he said. Prepare for unconventional warfare, and may God help us all. As the meeting broke up, people rushed off to begin the most desperate preparations in human history. They had less than a month to turn humanity from peaceful explorers into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Zephyrians expected Earth to surrender or die quickly. They had no idea they were about to discover what happened when humans had nothing left to lose. The Zephyrian armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 200 massive warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with alien metal and bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Commander Zek Thule stood on the bridge of the flagship, studying the pitiful human defenses. A few dozen small warships scattered around the outer planets. No orbital defense platforms. No sign of the massive military buildup he had expected. Pathetic, he muttered to his subordinate. These humans truly are as primitive as the High Commander said. Sir, we're detecting massive evacuation ships heading away from the third planet, reported the sensor operator. It appears they are fleeing in panic. Zek Thule's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. As expected. Begin the advance. Send word to all ships. Resistance is minimal. This will be easier than conquering the plant eaters of Zerion Prime. But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, things began to go wrong in small, irritating ways. Captain Steve Miller waited in the asteroid belt with his squadron of modified fighters. The ships looked like simple mining vessels, but they had been stripped down and loaded with every weapon Earth could provide. Wait for it, Steve whispered into his communicator. Let them get close. The lead Zephyrian ships moved past the asteroid field, dismissing the small human vessels as harmless miners. That's when Steve gave the signal. 20 human fighters erupted from hiding spots among the asteroids, moving faster than the aliens thought possible. They swarmed around the massive alien ships like angry hornets, targeting sensor arrays and communication equipment. What are these insects doing? Zek Thule demanded as his ship shook from multiple impacts. The humans were using crude explosive charges, barely powerful enough to scratch alien armor, but they were hitting critical systems with surgical precision. Pilot Laura Johnson dove her fighter between two alien ships, using their own bulk against them. When they fired their massive weapons at her, she slipped away and let their shots hit each other instead. "They're like gnats," complained one alien commander. "How do we swat gnats with hammers?" The human fighters were too small and fast for the alien weapons to track effectively. Designed to fight other massive warships, the Zephyrian fleet found itself helpless against enemies that refused to stand still and fight properly. After 10 minutes of chaos, the human fighters vanished back into the asteroid field, leaving 3 alien ships damaged and the entire fleet confused and angry. "Pursue them," Zekthul ordered. "Sir, they know this system better than we do. Our ships are too large to navigate safely through those asteroids." Zekthul snarled but continued toward Earth. This was just a minor annoyance. Once they reached the human homeworld, this nonsense would end. But Earth looked wrong too. The major cities were dark and empty. No defensive satellites, no orbital weapons platforms, just a few scattered space stations that didn't even try to fight back. "Where are they all?" Zekthul wondered aloud. "Sir, we're detecting extensive tunnel systems under the major landmasses. It appears the humans have gone underground." "Like worms," Zekthul sneered. "Very well. Deploy ground forces to dig them out." The invasion of Earth began at dawn. Massive alien landing ships descended through the atmosphere, their crews confident that this would be quick and easy. The humans had no choice but to surrender now. Major Tony Roberts crouched in a hidden bunker outside New York, watching the alien ships land in Central Park. The creatures that emerged were impressive, 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor-like skin, moving with the slow, deliberate power of beings from a high-gravity world. "Look at them," he whispered to his team. "They're carrying enough equipment for a small army. Heavy environmental suits, massive weapons, communication gear that probably weighs more than one of our soldiers." The aliens moved in perfect formation across the empty city, searching for humans to capture. What they found instead were empty buildings rigged with surprises. Corporal Lisa Green triggered the first trap. A simple explosive device brought down a building right on top of an alien patrol. The creatures were tough enough to survive, but now they were trapped under tons of rubble. "This is taking too long," complained the alien squad leader. "Where are the humans?" They got their answer when Sergeant Dan Cooper led an attack from the subway tunnels. His team had been trained in close-quarters combat, something the aliens had never experienced. Their heavy weapons were useless in narrow spaces, and their bulky environmental suits made them clumsy. The humans struck fast and vanished, leaving confused aliens firing at shadows. When reinforcements arrived, they found only empty tunnels and more traps. Dr. Rachel Kim had spent weeks preparing special weapons for this day. Her sonic devices disrupted alien communication systems, turning their coordination into chaos. Her electromagnetic pulse weapons overloaded their sophisticated equipment, forcing them to rely on backup systems they barely understood. Engineer Carl Brooks had modified the city's infrastructure to become a weapon. When aliens tried to use the power grid, they got massive electrical surges. When they tried to access water supplies, they found the pipes filled with corrosive chemicals. Every system they tried to use turned against them. The aliens were used to conquering species that fought like they did, massive armies meeting in open battle, superior technology crushing inferior resistance. They had never faced an enemy that turned their own strength against them. "Sir, our forces are requesting immediate reinforcement," reported the communications officer on Zekthul's flagship. "The humans are not fighting like a proper military. They attack and disappear. They use the environment as a weapon. Our troops can't establish secure positions. How many humans are we fighting?" Zekthul demanded. "Unknown, sir. They could be anywhere from a few thousand to several million. We can't get accurate counts." The truth was worse than Zekthul imagined. Humanity wasn't fighting with a few thousand soldiers. Every human on the planet had become a potential fighter. Old people sabotaged equipment. Children carried messages between resistance cells. Doctors treated wounded fighters and then returned to their medical duties. Teachers turned their knowledge into tactical advantages. Captain Ryan Bell led a raid on an alien supply depot using nothing but civilian volunteers and stolen alien equipment. They didn't try to hold ground or destroy everything. They just took what they needed and melted back into the population. The aliens found themselves fighting an entire species, and that species refused to follow any rules they understood. Humans did things that made no tactical sense, like sacrificing themselves to save strangers, or continuing to fight even when victory was impossible. "This is not how wars are supposed to work," Zekthul muttered as he watched reports of human attacks across the globe. "Where is their command structure? Where is their main army? How do we make them surrender?" His second-in-command looked at the tactical displays with growing confusion. "Sir, I believe we may have underestimated these humans." As night fell on the first day of occupation, Zekthul realized that conquering Earth was going to be much harder than anyone had expected. The humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to make the aliens lose, and they were very good at it. 3 months into the occupation, the Zephyrian Empire was learning that controlling Earth was like trying to hold water in their claws. Every time they thought they had secured an area, humans would appear from nowhere, strike at their weak points, and vanish again. Captain Ryan Bell crouched in the maintenance tunnels beneath the Alien Command Center in London. His team of 12 fighters carried stolen alien weapons and homemade explosives. They had been planning this raid for weeks. "Remember?" Ryan whispered. "We're not here to hold ground. We get in, grab their communication codes, and get out. The moment they know we're here, this place becomes a death trap." The team moved through the tunnels with practiced silence. Above them, alien guards patrolled with heavy weapons, but they never thought to check the old subway maintenance shafts that humans had been using for months. Dr. Sam Hayes monitored alien communications from a hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains. She had learned their language by studying captured transmissions, and what she heard made her smile grimly. "They're scared," she reported to tactical analyst Julie Fox. "Listen to this. Request immediate reinforcement for Sector 7. Human attacks increasing in frequency and unpredictability. Standard patrol procedures ineffective." Julie studied the pattern of alien requests on her display. "They're pulling troops from other systems to reinforce Earth. That means they're weakening their control elsewhere." "Better yet," Sam continued, "they're asking for specialists in irregular warfare suppression. Apparently, the mighty Zephyrian Empire has never dealt with guerrilla fighters before." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Matt Stone was leading raids on alien supply convoys. His specialty was hitting them in space between Earth and their orbital supply stations. Using modified civilian ships disguised as cargo haulers, his teams would get close to alien transports and board them. The aliens never expected humans to engage in hand-to-hand combat in zero gravity. Their heavy, bulky bodies were designed for high-gravity worlds. In the weightless environment of space, they moved like clumsy giants while humans floated around them like dancers. "Surrender your vessel," Matt announced in broken Zephyrian as his team swarmed through the transport ship's corridors. The alien crew, weighted down by environmental suits and equipment, couldn't match human speed and agility in microgravity. Within minutes, the transport was in human hands, along with its cargo of advanced alien technology and intelligence data. Back on Earth, the aliens were discovering that their technological advantages meant nothing when humans refused to fight conventional battles. Corporal Lisa Green had become an expert at alien psychology through direct observation. "They're pack hunters," she explained to her squad while they prepared for another hit-and-run attack. "They work together perfectly, but only when they can communicate with each other. Disrupt their communications and they become confused and defensive." Her team had developed tactics specifically designed to exploit alien weaknesses. They used mirrors and lights to blind alien optical sensors. They made loud noises to disrupt alien hearing, which was more sensitive than human ears. Most importantly, they attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, something the highly organized aliens couldn't handle. Private Dan Cooper had discovered that aliens were psychologically unprepared for human tenacity. During one raid, he had continued fighting even after being wounded, something that terrified the alien soldiers. "They expect injured enemies to retreat or surrender," he told Dr. Nina Foster during his medical treatment. "When I kept coming at them with a broken arm, they panicked. Their training doesn't cover enemies who ignore pain and keep fighting." The breakthrough came when Captain Ryan Bell's team successfully captured the Alien Communications Center. They not only stole the codes but also discovered something more valuable: the location of Zephyrian supply bases throughout the galaxy. Dr. Rachel Kim worked frantically to decode the intelligence data. "It's incredible," she told Admiral Frank Davis. "They have supply lines stretching across dozens of star systems, and they're all managed from central command centers that have never been attacked, because no one has ever been able to reach them, Admiral Davis realized, until now. The plan that emerged was audacious even by human standards. Using captured alien ships and stolen navigation data, human forces would launch simultaneous attacks on Zephyrian supply bases across multiple star systems. Engineer Carl Brooks had spent months studying captured alien technology. Their ships are more advanced than ours, but they're also more complicated. Every system has backup systems and safety protocols. That makes them reliable, but also vulnerable to the right kind of sabotage. The first interstellar raid was led by Commander Elena Ross, using a captured Zephyrian cruiser with a mixed crew of human fighters and technicians. They approached the supply base at Proxima Centauri, flying alien identification codes and speaking perfect Zephyrian. Supply transport requesting docking clearance. Elena announced in the alien language. Acknowledged. Proceed to docking bay 7. The base personnel never suspected anything until human fighters poured out of the transport and began systematic sabotage of critical systems. By the time the base commander realized what was happening, his communication arrays were destroyed and his ships were disabled. Similar raids struck alien bases across the galaxy. Each attack followed the same pattern. Approach using captured ships, get inside the defenses, then cause maximum damage to supply lines and communication networks. The Zephyrians had never experienced anything like coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. Their empire had been built on the assumption that primitive species could only threaten individual planets. The idea that humans could project power across interstellar distances was beyond their understanding. How are they doing this? Demanded High Commander Vextar during an emergency conference with his field commanders. Our intelligence said they barely had interplanetary travel. Commander Zekthul, still struggling to control Earth, could only report more bad news. They learn our technology faster than we can adapt our tactics. Every new weapon we deploy, they find a counter for within days. Every new strategy we try, they turn against us. And they never give up, added another commander. We destroy their forces and more appear. We capture their leaders and new ones take their place. How do you defeat an enemy that treats death as just another tactical option? The answer was becoming clear to some of the more thoughtful Zephyrian officers. You couldn't defeat an enemy like humanity using conventional warfare. They weren't fighting for territory or resources or even survival. They were fighting for the right to exist as a free species. On Earth, human resistance was growing stronger every day. What had started as desperate guerrilla warfare was becoming a coordinated military campaign. Alien forces found themselves trapped in fortified positions, unable to advance or retreat safely. Admiral Betty Walsh, commanding the reformed human space fleet, prepared for the next phase of the war. Using intelligence gathered from raids and captured alien personnel, they now knew the location of the Zephyrian home system. It's time to take this war to them, she announced to her fleet commanders. They wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Let's show them what that place really is. The aliens who had once threatened to destroy Earth were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or numbers. It was the simple, terrifying fact that humans never knew when to quit. Admiral Betty Walsh stood on the bridge of the captured Zephyrian battleship that humans had renamed Liberty. Around her, a fleet of 30 ships, prepared for the most desperate mission in human history, an attack on the Zephyrian home system itself. All ships report. Ready for jump, announced Captain Roy Martin from the communications station. Half the fleet consisted of captured alien vessels, their hulls now bearing human markings and their crews trained in tactics no Zephyrian had ever imagined. Remember, Betty addressed her fleet commanders over the comm system, we're not trying to conquer their empire. We're going to show them that humans can reach anywhere, strike anyone, and that continuing this war will cost them more than they're willing to pay. The jump to hyperspace felt different in alien ships. The technology was smoother, more advanced, but somehow less human. As the fleet traveled toward the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, Betty reviewed the intelligence that had made this mission possible. The Zephyrian home system was protected by massive orbital defense platforms and a fleet of over 500 warships. No enemy had ever reached it in the 1,000 years of their empire. Their confidence in their defenses was absolute. That confidence was about to become their weakness. Dr. Paul Anderson, serving as the fleet's medical officer and intelligence analyst, had discovered something crucial about Zephyrian psychology. They can't comprehend enemies who act irrationally, he explained to the strike team leaders. Their entire military doctrine is based on logical force application. They can't predict enemies who ignore self-preservation. Lieutenant Commander Elena Ross would lead the boarding teams. She had become humanity's expert on fighting in alien environments, learning to use the very different gravity and atmosphere of alien ships as weapons against their crews. Their home ships will be built for maximum comfort in their natural environment, she told her fighters. High gravity, thick atmosphere, low oxygen by our standards. That's going to slow them down and make us faster and stronger by comparison. When the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system, alarms immediately began sounding on every defense platform and warship. Impossible, breathed the system defense commander as he stared at his sensors. How did primitive humans get ships capable of interstellar travel? The answer became clear as he studied the approaching vessels. They were Zephyrian ships captured and modified, crewed by humans who had learned to use alien technology better than its creators. All defense platforms, prepare for battle, he ordered. Destroy the human fleet before they can retreat. But the humans weren't planning to retreat. They were planning something that made no sense by Zephyrian standards. Captain Steve Miller led the first wave of fighters in a direct assault on the orbital defense platforms. Instead of engaging in long-range combat, his ships accelerated to ramming speed, forcing the massive alien weapons to fire at point-blank range. The platforms were designed to destroy enemy fleets at safe distances. They couldn't handle opponents who were willing to get so close that missing was impossible, and who didn't care if they survived the encounter. They're coming straight at us, reported one platform commander. They're not even trying to avoid our weapons. Then destroy them. We can't. If we fire at this range, the explosion will damage our own platforms. Pilot Laura Johnson laughed grimly as she dove her fighter through the gap between two defense platforms, her ship's hull scraping against alien armor. Behind her, other human pilots followed, turning the carefully planned defense grid into chaos. The main battle began when Admiral Betty Walsh led her capital ships in a coordinated assault that violated every rule of space warfare. Instead of maintaining formation and engaging in long-range combat, the human ships split into dozens of small groups and attacked from every direction simultaneously. Captain Ryan Bell commanded a group of 5 ships that dove straight toward the planetary surface, forcing the orbital defenses to choose between shooting at him or defending against the other human forces. When the aliens focused their fire on his ships, other human groups struck at undefended targets. Commander Elena Ross led her boarding teams in the most audacious part of the plan. Using small, fast ships, they actually landed on the hull of the Zephyrian flagship and began cutting their way inside. This is insane, declared the Zephyrian admiral as he watched humans in spacesuits wielding cutting tools against his ship's armor. They're trying to board us in the middle of a space battle. His security forces rushed to repel the boarders, but they found themselves fighting in corridors designed for their own species' comfort. The high gravity that gave Zephyrians their strength now worked against them, while humans moved with surprising speed and agility. Dr. Paul Anderson treated wounded fighters while simultaneously analyzing alien technology they captured during the boarding action. His medical supplies included not just human equipment but alien medical devices he had learned to use on previous missions. Sir, he reported to Elena over the comm system. Their command center is 3 levels up, but they've sealed the access corridors. Then we make our own access, Elena replied, directing her team to cut through the floor itself. You may sight of humans literally carving their way through the deck of their flagship, while a space battle raged around them, was more than the Zephyrian crew could psychologically handle. These weren't rational opponents following logical military doctrine. These were some kind of insane predators who seemed to enjoy impossible situations. High Commander Vextar watched the battle from his command ship with growing horror. Human forces were everywhere, striking targets that should have been impossible to reach, ignoring dangers that should have made them retreat. Sir, they've captured 3 orbital platforms and are turning their weapons against us, reported his tactical officer. How many ships have we destroyed? 14 confirmed, but they keep fighting even when their ships are heavily damaged. And sir, they're broadcasting something. What kind of transmission? It appears to be a message to their home planet. They're sending real-time updates of the battle, including tactical data about our defenses. Vestar realized the horrible truth. This wasn't just an attack. It was a demonstration. Humans were proving that they could reach the heart of the Zephyrian Empire and broadcast their success to the entire galaxy. The turning point came when Elena Ross's boarding team reached the flagship's command center. Instead of trying to capture or destroy it, they did something that shocked the Zephyrian command staff into silence. High Commander Vestar, Elena announced in perfect Zephyrian. This is Commander Elena Ross of the human species. We're here to discuss terms. Terms? Vestar couldn't believe what he was hearing. You attack our home system and then want to negotiate? We've proven we can reach you anywhere, Elena replied calmly. We've shown that your defenses can't stop us. We've demonstrated that we can capture your technology and turn it against you. The question is, do you want this war to continue? Around the command center, alien officers stared at the small human woman who had just fought her way through their most secure defenses to deliver a diplomatic message. What do you want? Vestar asked. Leave human space. Recognize Earth as an independent system. Acknowledge that humanity will not be conquered or enslaved. And if we refuse? Elena smiled, and somehow that expression was more frightening than any weapon. Then we'll keep coming. Every supply base, every communication center, every world in your empire. We'll turn your own technology against you until you can't tell which ships are yours and which are ours. High Commander Vestar looked around his command center. His flagship was damaged, his defenses were in chaos, and a handful of humans had just proved they could reach him anywhere in the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior technology. They faced an enemy that grew stronger through conflict, that learned from every battle, that never surrendered. Very well, Vestar said quietly. Let us discuss terms. The war that was supposed to end with humanity's surrender instead ended with the galaxy's most powerful empire agreeing to peace with the species they had dismissed as primitives. As news of the ceasefire spread across human space, people emerged from their hiding places to find a world transformed. Earth had not just survived, it had won. Captain Jake Morrison, the explorer who had first encountered the Zephyrian fleet, stood in the same observation deck where the crisis had begun. Now, instead of alien warships, he watched human and Zephyrian vessels working together to establish the first interspecies space station. Ambassador Helen Price was already preparing for her journey to the Zephyrian capital, where she would establish humanity's first embassy among the stars. The species that had threatened to destroy Earth now requested human advisors to help them understand this new type of warfare. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. You could have the best technology, the largest fleets and the most powerful weapons, but none of that mattered if your enemy refused to be defeated. Humanity had stepped into battle, and the aliens had indeed trembled, not because humans were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were the most stubborn species the galaxy had ever encountered.